Tennessee basketball got back into the win column. A really good offensive night for the Volunteers, 90-80, the final score over Texas A&M. 5 Volunteers scored in double figures. I'll tell you more on that matchup. Plus, 2023 commit Ayden Bussell, who just committed to the Volunteers. He joins the show in segment 2, and we cap a Wednesday by talking with none other than Josh Ward. All that and more here on a Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and happy Wednesday. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Cain. So glad to have you guys along for the ride, and going to be a fun show coming up today. Like I said in the cold open, we'll talk hoops. We'll talk with a commit, Ayden Bussell, who Tennessee is thrilled to have jumped in the boat, and hopefully we'll kickstart this 2023 class of in-state prospects, and then we'll cap things off with a little bit of Tennessee content, some NFL content as well with our buddy Josh Ward. Thanks so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen. Everywhere you listen to your podcast, completely free. It is your team every single day. This is Locked On Vols. Plus, YouTube, you guys are doing a great job. Continue to subscribe and watch the show on YouTube, and really, really do appreciate that. All right, let's jump into it. Tennessee basketball, 90-80, the final score over Texas A&M. Right off the bat, a couple things I love from this matchup. 51% the Volunteers shot from the field, made 29 of 57 shots. 42% Tennessee shot from three. Yeah, I know, right? Made 11 of 26 from long range. Tennessee still struggled from the free throw line, however, 21-27. That would have reared its ugly head if the Volunteers didn't pull away late and make 7 of their last 8 field goals to bring it to a 10-point game. But Tennessee's offense shot the ball very, very well. This is not a great offensive team. I mean, you guys know this. You guys watch this team every single time they're out there, just like I do. Tennessee shot very well against Kentucky as well, but just got blown out of the gym. But Tennessee shot very well here and won by 10 points over A&M, who has now lost 5 straight conference games after jumping out of the gate to an 11-2 record. Still, no quadrant 1 or 2 wins for Texas A&M on the season. This, of course, is a quadrant 1 loss for the Aggies. A couple things I liked right out of the gate. Josiah Jordan-James, so of course, is the one that missed that wide open three-pointer there to end the game at Texas. He said post-game, I meant to play the audio for you guys. I apologize. But if you didn't catch his post-game comments after the loss of Texas, he said, hey, I just came up short. I can't dwell on it. I apologize to the teammates. I said I was sorry. Yeah, I mean, he's got nothing to be sorry for. I mean, you're a basketball player. You make some, you miss some, right? But he came out of the gate strong, scored a quick 6 points for Tennessee, made a three-pointer. He finished the game with 14 with that 1 3-pointer made, only 1 of 2 from long range, but 4 of 7 overall from the field was Josiah Jordan-James. Perfect from the charity stripe, 5 of 5, and he was Tennessee's leading rebounder with 8. While Josiah Jordan-James was on the court, Tennessee was plus 19. Obviously, the largest margin there for the Volunteers was when number 30 was on the court at plus 19. He only played 21 minutes in this game because he was in a bit of some foul trouble there early on. So, nonetheless, Tennessee gets a jump start from Josiah Jordan-James, and then it was kind of an up-and-down game, in my opinion, for Kennedy Chandler. Yeah, his stat line looks good, 16 points. He has 7 assists. He had 2 rebounds. He shot the ball relatively well, 5-11 from the field, made all but 1 of his free throws, 5 of 6. But he had 4 turnovers, and some of these turnovers, like I was texting a buddy. No, that's not making fun of Danny White. I promise. I was texting a buddy in real life while the game was going on. We weren't even complaining, but he was just like, man, it's such a trip with Kennedy Chandler, right? And I mean, yeah, he's 18 years old. Yeah, sure. I still think he'll be a first-round draft pick if he so chooses to go to the NBA draft right now, but he's still learning. And a lot of times he just doesn't take the shot when he needs to be there. Sometimes he takes ill-advised shots. Sometimes he makes dumb passes. You saw a little bit of that in this game against Texas A&M, but ultimately you still see those flashes. I mean, that's when he got that steal and then that reverse layup there on the baseline in the second half. I mean, that quickness, you see that quickness is one of his best attributes. And again, it was on display last night as well. So 16.7 assists for Kennedy Chandler. Olivier Combois, under the radar, I feel like, played a fantastic game. 15 points is where he finished, 7 rebounds as well. He only turned the ball over one time, 6 of 10 shooting from the field, did make a three-pointer as well. I thought Olivier Nkamhoua, who, started off SEC play playing very, very well against Alabama, against LSU, and then just kind of stopped playing, to that level. And then he was kind of MIA, right? We're talking about this front court and how Uros Plavsic was, the most consistent player for the first, little bit of SEC play, but he's gone MIA here lately. John Fulkerson is continuing to not be much of an offensive threat. So it was great to see Olivier Nkamhoua come back and play the way he did last night. So 15 points and 7 rebounds for Olivier Nkamhoua. And then 2 more players scored in double figures. Santiago Vescovi, 4 of 8 shooting from the field. All were from long range, finished with 13 points, only 1 of 3 from the charity stripe. He did have 5 assists as well. And there's a guy, Ziegler, 14 points. He had -9 while he was on the court. I'm not really sure how that happens, because he scored in double figures and played a pretty good game, but he was -9 when he was on the court last night. Nonetheless, he finished in double figures. So overall, Tennessee it was a good win to see, right? I don't think Texas A&M is a bad ball club. I think that they have run into some tough luck here. You're playing Kentucky, you're playing LSU, you're playing at Tennessee, all in the span of 5 SEC games. You lose all 5 of those. Not great for A&M, don't get me wrong, but I don't think this is a horrible basketball team. This is a good win for Tennessee. Victor Bailey Jr. continues to see his minutes, get a little bit of an uptick. After the game at Texas, Rick Barnes pretty much said, hey, he's earned these minutes lately. And right now it's kind of hard to dispute. He's not taking stupid shots. Only took 2 shots last night, finished with 5 points, made a free throw. He was 2 of 2 from the field, and none of those were three-pointers. It's not like he was out there just taking these shots after shots after shots like you've seen him do at points in times throughout his Tennessee career. So Bailey Jr. played 7 minutes, very productive in those 7 minutes. Justin Powell finished with 6 points. He had back-to-back three-pointers late in that ball game. I thought that was big when Tennessee was trying to ice this game away. So really a good performance from really everybody that played in this lineup. Uros Plavsic, 17 minutes, 3 points. It just kind of is what it is. He's continuing to be a non-factor the last 2 to 3 ball games. John Fulkerson finished with 4 points. He had 5 rebounds as well, 2 assists. So you're not getting the scoring from John Fulkerson like you still need to. Again, we're not saying that John Fulkerson needs to dial back the clock 2 years ago at Kentucky, but you like for him to be averaging more than 2 to 4 points a game. At least he's contributing in other ways, getting rebounds, assisting. He was in the plus column as well when he was on the court for Tennessee. John Fulkerson, actually, he was in the minus, so it was right around even. He was at -2, but overall, I didn't think it was the worst game from John Fulkerson. So, bottom line, Tennessee finishes 90-80. The win over Texas A&M, a big win as the Volunteers move to what is it? That 6 win in SEC play, 6-3 in SEC play overall now, and Tennessee picks up its 15th win of the season. Tennessee did turn the basketball over a little bit too much, 17 turnovers, where A&M was able to score 18 points off those turnovers. A&M did turn the ball over 16 times, and Tennessee was able to get 24 points off those turnovers. So that's a little bit of an uptick in points off turnovers, where over the weekend, Rick Barnes said that he didn't know what the stat was, but he thought Tennessee might have been one of the worst, statistically one of the worst teams in the country in scoring points off turnovers. So you didn't get a whole lot tonight, but you got 24, don't get me wrong, but you just got 24 off of 16. You'd still like to see that up a little bit more. But nonetheless, a good win for Tennessee. Largest lead came in that second half with 15. However, it got down to about 3 at one point in time, but Tennessee able to get this one up there to 10 points. A 10-point victory for the Volunteers, 90-80, and you'll take that every single night of the week. But the defense wasn't great. A&M still shot 46% from the field, made 26 of 56. 3-point shooting, perimeter defense was all right, 7 of 22 from long range, 32%. Rick Barnes not happy with the defense, but we'll take this offense. And as he said at halftime to Alyssa Lang on the SEC Network, Tennessee's a good offensive team whenever it's playing to its potential, and certainly offensively it was playing to its potential last night. So Tennessee gets the win, and that's good for the Volunteers. They will regroup and get ready for a weekend showdown coming up here in the next few days. Tennessee football 2023 commit Ayden Bussell. He stops by the show in segment number 2. Really looking forward to that. But before we get to Ayden, I want to tell you about Built Bar. New year, New Year's resolutions a lot of the times. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure to include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. If you're trying to stick to your New Year's resolution, I know it's tough. Sometimes by week 2 or week 3, you just want some chocolate. Good news, Built Bar is covered in 100% chocolate, but it's only got 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, where some of these candy bars have up to 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. But the big thing about Built Bars is protein, 17 grams of protein in your Built Bar. So many flavors, one for you as well. Peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel mint brownie, and coconut almond. Find it all at Built.com. Go to Built.com, use that promo code LOCK15, and there you're going to get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off. That is at Built.com. Want to welcome onto the show a new Tennessee football commit for the class of 2023, rated as a 3-star by Rivals, about 6'5", 290 pounds, an offensive lineman from Mount Juliet, Tennessee. His name is Ayden Bussell. Ayden, it's been kind of a whirlwind type week for you committing to the home state Volunteers, but how you feeling, man? Thanks for joining the show.
I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, doing really, really well. So I kind of wanted to break down this decision. Obviously, you're no stranger to Rocky Top. You visited Tennessee a couple of times over the past couple of months during the season, over the summer, stuff like that. What made you want to make this decision now to call Tennessee home?
It came down to being the right people, the right place, and the right time for me. I really felt like my heart was pulling me to Tennessee, being in state. Having, been there a bunch of times. I visited probably 5 or 6 times, growing a relationship with the coaches, really getting to know how they work, how they think, the way they coach, and everything like that.
When it came down to Tennessee, what was appealing, outside of some of the things you just mentioned there? What were some other things that were appealing about, maybe Josh Heupel's program, Glenn Ellerbee, the way he coaches, just maybe the power T, kind of what was it that kind of called you to Tennessee?
I really think it was how they run their offense was, a big part of that. Obviously, being such a fast-paced team and being, such a great offense in their first year, seeing how Tennessee and Coach Heupel's staff was able to really turn it around from years prior and have that good record this year. That was really something that I looked at. And also the fact of how personal Coach Ellerbee is in his coaching. On my last visit, we came into his office and I was in there for an hour and a half just going over my own film with him and him telling me what I could do better and what I need to work on, and also the things that I do well. And after seeing that really helped me see, this is a place I want to be.
Ayden Bussell joining the show, Tennessee's latest 2023 commit. When sitting down with Coach Ellerbee and going through your film and all that, what were some of those things that he pointed out saying, hey, you're doing this really, really well. This is something that we can build on when you get here to this level?
One thing was really positioning and footwork. Obviously, footwork is a big part of it, being able to take your first step into the ground at the right angle and getting that second step in the ground. Those first 2 steps are a really big part that I really hadn't, focused in on, at the high school level. And seeing that from him, he explained it in a way that it made it more than just thinking about it as the first 2 steps. It's really you win the rep in the first 2 or 3 steps, and also the position of your body. If you can get your knee in between their crotch and really everything like that. Also, being able to really drive your hips is a big part of it. We talked about all of that, being able to lock on, get inside, and also positioning of the hands is a really big part of it. All of that, he said, naturally aggression, that just comes with being a lineman. And he was like, you have that, and speed, I have that, everything else. But it really comes down to the smaller details, like the footwork and being able to place your hands at the right spot.
Now, there's some versatility here. You can play either guard or tackle. When projecting yourself a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, where does Tennessee maybe see you on this offensive line?
I mainly talked with Coach Ellerbee about being a guard. They see me as being an interior guy. Obviously, I am tall and, I am big, but as I feel into my frame, I think they're going to see me more as a guard. But that'll change depending on how I grow and how I do grow into my body these next few years.
And at Mount Juliet, you guys run some tempo. We've spoken in the past, and obviously nothing is like what Tennessee runs. You can't duplicate that. You can't replicate that. But for you, coming from a little bit of a tempo system, do you think it's going to be that big of a shock when you start, going through reps and spring practice next spring?
I don't think it'll be a huge shock. Obviously, it'll be a much higher pace tempo because nobody can replicate 3 snaps in a minute. You know what I mean? And I'll be used to it, but it will be a little bit of a learning curve, just being able to get back to the ball as fast and getting the play as fast, and then running it through my head and knowing what I have to do. But I think I'll be pretty well adjusted to it in about a month's time.
Tennessee won out. Who were some of these other programs that showed a lot of interest in you that were kind of with you there during this recruiting process?
It was really it came down to a few schools. Kentucky and Vanderbilt were the other ones, in Tennessee, and then a bunch of schools they came into the picture a little bit later, such as Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Virginia Tech had been there for a while. But really it came down to having a great relationship with the coaches at Vanderbilt and Kentucky.
Now, Ayden, you are the third commit for this class of 2023, joining Jack Luttrell and Ethan Davis, an athletes, a defensive back, as well as a tight end. How's your relationship with those guys right now? And did they reach out to you and offer some congratulations?
They did. Obviously on Twitter, you see the guys that go boom or something like that. Class of 2023 strong. I talked to Jack earlier before I had committed, and then he said something to me afterwards. But, obviously I still have to grow that relationship with them. And I think I'm going to reach out to them and, maybe start like a group chat or something just to get to know them better.
And last thing for you here, Ayden, and this is something, again, we've spoken on in the past a little bit, but it's always critical, for Tennessee to recruit in-state guys. Obviously, you are an in-state guy. Do you feel it as a responsibility to kind of help, get other guys to jump into the boat and kind of help recruits on behalf of Tennessee? Because there's some serious talents, yourself included, here inside the borders for this class of 2023.
I do, I know these guys personally, and I've trained with these guys. I've had moments where, we're bleeding together and sweating together and everything like that. So, I have that relationship with them. So being able to bring in somebody that I know is going to work hard, that I know is good, is a big thing to me, as well as, I've played against some of them. I know that they're good, and everything like that really, it helps me to be able to be like, show them everything that Tennessee can offer them and show them everything that Coach Heupel's staff is building. And, in the end, I think that it'll definitely help with getting them here.
Well, good deal, man. I know it was, I feel like it was a couple of years ago. I remember when you got the offer from Tennessee, you had told us that you and your dad were pumped up and, high-fiving and stuff. And now fast forward a couple of years later, you are committed to Tennessee. So congratulations, man. And where are, some avenues, social media, Twitter, Instagram, where Tennessee fans listening and watching the show right now can start following you and start learning more about you before you step foot here on campus?
They can follow me on Twitter at Ayden Bussell, or on Instagram. It's also at Ayden Bussell, all lowercase, all that.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again, man. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here today.
Yes, sir. Thank
All
you.
right, that is 2023 commits Ayden Bussell, Tennessee's newest commit on the offensive line. We'll come back, wrap up things with a little Ward Wednesday with Josh Ward. But first, it is Bet Online. It's got you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through the playoffs. Right to the big game here in a couple of weeks. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. It's not just football, all right? And don't wait to take advantage of all these amazing offers that are available for all of the 2022 season. Bet Online, it's here for you. It's here for me. I use it a couple times a week, and I make some coin in my pocket. It is a great thing to have on your side. So don't wait. Take advantage of all the things going on right now. It's betonline.net. Bet Online, it is where the game starts. We got one more segment to go here on a Wednesday, but it truly wouldn't be a Ward Wednesday without the man himself, Josh Ward. Josh_Wards. We can find him on Twitter. Josh hanging out with us here every single Wednesday. What is going on, my friend?
Hey, great to be on. It's the offseason in college football, but there's so many storylines going on with Tennessee around the country, and of course, with college basketball in full swing now in February. It's a fun time.
Yeah, tons of storylines going on around the world of sports, but none bigger than Tom Brady right now. Okay, it's TB12 calling it quits. A little bit of confusion over the weekend, but Tom Brady makes it official Tuesday morning and announcing his retirement after just a mere 22 seasons with 7 Super Bowl titles.
Yeah, it's I think close to impossible to sum up everything that he accomplished in a brief conversation because it spans so much time, but I think it goes beyond what he did on the football field. It's like he had different stages of his career that are all Hall of Fame worthy. So you could split it into 2 Hall of Fame careers. You could almost go Tom Brady 1.0, 2.0, and then closing out 3.0 in Tampa, which people have done. The accolades, one stat that is just mind-boggling to me is 35 playoff wins. The next highest is Joe Montana at 16. If you take number 2 and 3 and combine them, they're still short of what Tom Brady was able to do. And then if you tie it into Tennessee, there is the obvious Tom Brady, Peyton Manning rivalry and connection. So a lot of Tennessee fans pulled against Tom Brady because they were on the side of Peyton Manning. But Peyton's statement backed up their friendship that I think has been there for a long time, and people didn't necessarily realize it while they were playing against each other when Peyton retired and then went to the Hall of Fame. Tom had this social media post where he said, hate to tell you, but we've been friends this whole time. Paraphrasing there, but I really think that's true because they had such great respect for each other and admiration for what the other did, and they also learned from each other along the way. And I think what they both did, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, is that they really mastered the game, what the position should be, how they should lead, how they should prepare and figure out what other teams are doing. And that didn't mean they were going to be perfect on the field, but in terms of the ball being snapped and what they had to do before that moment, I don't think any more could have been done by Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. And I think that's what they both were able to figure out along the way in their careers. The accomplishments are they're unmatched, and I don't think they ever will be in terms of what Tom was able to do.
I mean, it truly is a changing of the guard because in just the not so distant future, a couple of years, ago, and then here recently, Peyton Manning called it quits. Now you got Philip Rivers calling it quits. Eli Manning has retired. Drew Brees is retired. Aaron Rodgers is still playing, but Tom Brady's retired. Ben Roethlisberger has retired. It really is kind of a changing of the guard where you have tons of Hall of Fame quarterbacks or future Hall of Fame quarterbacks who are now handing it over to Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow. I think Justin Herbert. I think the quarterback position is in good hands moving forward.
Yeah, we are moving into a different era. We'll see what happens next with Aaron Rodgers, but time is ticking there as well. So we're watching the next phase, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. I've been really entertained the last few weeks, as I think everybody else has, by what Mahomes and Allen did against one another, and then Joe Burrow with the run that he's been on. He's just going to be a great quarterback, and Herbert has a ton of talent. And from this past rookie class, at least one, probably at least 2 players will emerge, I imagine, from Lawrence to Wilson to Justin Fields. Trey Lance has a ton of talent. We'll see what he does once he becomes a starter. But I just think the league's in good hands in the position, and we'll have the next 10 to 15 years to talk about these rivalries that will develop and how well they will play. I can't imagine any of them individually will match what Tom has done from an accomplishment standpoint, but for the game itself, we'll be entertained. And the veterans are not going away. Matthew Stafford has a good chance to get a ring. He's been around for a while, his first real shot to get it. with the LA Rams. But a lot of young talent that's coming into the league or has come in the last few years. And the rules can kind of help. But yeah, I think some of what I mentioned with Tom Brady and what Peyton Manning did in terms of learning about the game, with all the offseason work that is there and all the teaching and training that takes place before a guy even gets to college, let alone the NFL, it creates opportunities for quarterbacks to develop and be maybe more ready earlier in their career. So we're seeing young quarterbacks like Bryce Young win the Heisman Trophy in his first year starting at Alabama as a second-year college quarterback, or what Johnny Manziel did and Jameis Winston, young quarterbacks winning Heismans or competing for them. Guys like Trevor Lawrence coming in as a freshman at Clemson. So we're seeing that a lot. And at Tennessee, I think they have a veteran quarterback, but next year we'll be talking about maybe a young quarterback who could come in, either Taven Jackson, as a second-year guy, or a transfer that comes in. It's just the depth at the position, I think, is pretty wild when you look at the offseason movement of quarterbacks this year that are bouncing around. All of these guys can play.
You brought up Tennessee there, and Josh Heupel reels in his third commit for the class of 2022 and a three-star offensive lineman, Ayden Bussell from Mount Juliet. Bussell stands in at about 6'5", 290 pounds. And this is a big commitment for two reasons, Josh. And you know this, of course. It's in-state prospect, number one on their big board in-state. And you want to get that ball rolling, of course, because the priority's got to be in-state, but also it's a position of need. Tennessee's going to hope to bring in 5 to 6 offensive linemen in this class, and Ayden Bussell, again, was their number one target from inside the Tennessee border. So a big pickup for the University of Tennessee yesterday, and a guy that I feel like is a little undervalued in three-star Ayden Bussell.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Recruiting the offensive line is just going to be so important to build that position group moving forward. I'd say from a roster and depth standpoint, it's not exactly where the staff wants it to be. They're going to try to fix that. Recruiting is where you start. And then recruiting in the state of Tennessee, that would probably be the biggest knock on recruiting this past year, is that the staff just didn't do all that they hoped to accomplish inside the state of Tennessee. There are reasons for that, but the results are what they are. And nobody's going to look at the next year and say, yeah, it's okay if you just miss out on a bunch of guys in the state. So early on, getting a key target from inside the state to start things off or help start things off, and then try to build on that, it's a really good start. I think Tennessee could have a really good class, a better class in 2023 than this past year, which is the goal. And it's not like they have star rankings next to these players when they put their big board together, talking about the coaching staff, but they have these guys ranked in terms of an order of priority. And we like this guy the best at this position. And then on down the list, for the most part, they want to get those guys. They want to get some of the heavy hitters and the top priorities. So to start out doing that is nice. They need to keep building on it. But I think Tennessee's in a much better position now than a year ago. A year ago, you didn't have a full staff to get the recruiting process started. Now they have that entire staff coming back. That could make a big difference.
And then finally, I do want to say we're recording this prior to tip-off Tuesday night, Tennessee and Texas A&M, as the Vols try to get back into the win column. But, Josh, I've been asking everybody throughout the week, what was your take on how that play developed? Tennessee comes back, goes on a 17-2 run, comes back from 15-2 run, coming back from 17 down, and having a chance to win it there at the end as Rick Barnes goes home. It spoiled ultimately at Texas, but Tennessee had a chance to win it there at the end. Zakai Ziegler going to the rim, can get out to a wide open Josiah Jordan-James. He takes the shot, it doesn't fall. Of course, you have Vescovi that's in the corner that could have maybe taken that shot, but nonetheless, looked like a good look for me. What did you think about how that play was designed, how that play developed, and how Tennessee ultimately just came up short there in Austin?
I thought it was a great play. The result was not what you wanted, and I'd prefer Santi to be taking that shot over Josiah Jordan-James, but also Santi hadn't made a three all night. Josiah had hit shots, and I think what's easy to forget is the game is not played on a television screen. We're sitting there watching the clock as it rolls with the play, and we're looking zoomed out and to see what should happen. You have 6 seconds to go the length of the floor, with the defense is trying to keep you from doing what you want to initially, which is, I'm sure, see if you can make a play to the basket. Well, they don't want you to make a play to the basket. So the next goal is, okay, I need to find an open shooter, and Zakai Ziegler did that. You're not getting most likely a 60, 70, 80% shot on that play. You're getting what you're hoping to get is an open look, and they got it. And again, I would prefer Santi to take that shot over Josiah, but it's kind of close in that moment. And Zakai's biggest objective is to get the ball to an open shooter. And he did that when he realized that going to the basket's probably not going to be in his best interest on that play. So he got the ball to Josiah. He took the shot. He missed it. I prefer action to the basket. Texas preferred to make sure that didn't happen. So I thought the play itself, considering how much time was left and having to go the length of the court, was as good as you can hope going in. It's just that the shot didn't go in.
He is Josh_Ward. Josh Ward every single Wednesday here on Locked On Vols. Josh, thanks so much for the time, man.
You too. Thank you.
Again, every single Wednesday, Josh Ward here on the show. All right, that's going to do it here for a Wednesday edition of Locked On Vols. Had a fun time talking Tennessee hoops, catching up with a Tennessee football commit in Ayden Bussell, and of course, catching up with our buddy Josh Ward. Thanks so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. Now that you're done listening to Locked On Vols for the day, go check out Locked On Bets. Your boy Q, handicapping expert Lee Sterling. It's your one-stop shop for all your sports wagering needs. Give Locked On Bets your second listen after Locked On Vols, which is your first listen every single weekday morning when you wake up. Available and free on every single platform. A YouTube show begins at 9 a.m. every single morning. Go ahead and subscribe and follow the show there on YouTube. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us here today. We got some big guests coming up the next 2 days as we venture on throughout the week here on Locked On Vols. We'll talk again tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.